Mr. X with the Extreme Channel. Lardass is here.
Done! Diving into his fifth pie, Lardass began to imagine that he wasn't eating pies. He pretended he was eating cow flops.
Actually, the really cool thing about this guy is nobody would call him Lardass because he could just melt you with his heat vision or bench press you or break you in half. But we have another fatty in the house, and if you include myself, this is our fifth fatty. So let's dive into fat soups. Mr. X with the Extreme Channel, and I am here with Mum Mum Chubby Superman by CO Signature Collectibles. It does not stand for Colorado. I don't know what it stands for, but this is the fifth fatty that they've made. They previously made a Wolverine, then a Deadpool, then a Batman, and now a Superman, and they just revealed an Aquaman. Check this out. Now in the Extreme Collection, we currently have the first four, and at the end of this video, we'll put all four of them together because there were some scaling issues with the first few. And speaking of scale, I honestly don't know what he is supposed to be. He's clearly not 1/4 size, but let's actually take the measurements and maybe we can kind of get an idea there. So height is just under 13 inches, and Superman himself is about 11 inches, so it's probably close to 1/6, 1/7. The deepest point is right at about 10.5 inches. And the widest point is probably his cape, just under 9 inches. He came in a very small box. Here's a little bit of the scale. And then inside a very, very cool art box. And like with all their pieces, it also comes with a card for authenticity. And then here's the inside. It's 4 different pieces. His 2 hands, the base, and Superman himself. Packed very well. They made 300 of these, and they retailed for $268. Now this company, I know they originally started doing this. I don't know if they still are, but they actually give a portion to charity, which is pretty cool. And this is actually a unique take for them for a few different reasons. They've never done a piece where they had to show the full face. They had Batman and Wolverine who have cowls on, and then of course Deadpool was fully masked. And it kind of shows, which we'll look at in the paint and sculpt. But they just do these goofy things. They also recently did a Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. You saw the Aquaman, and I know I was talking to the owner, I believe he's the owner, a few months back, and he said he has like over a dozen plans. So I'm pretty excited to see what they do. And some people don't like this goofy stuff. You know, to each his own, but it's just a unique take. I like that it's something different. And what I really like about this is if you are a huge Superman fan, for example, Stuart, I'm talking to you, this will go great with your Superman statues. If you are a DC fan, it'll go great. Or if you just like the fatties like me, statues. You've seen my wife, she's like like $110, if that. So if you like fatties within your statues, it can go with that line as well. But let's talk about the concept and design of this. And one really unique thing is they've made 4 pieces to date, and I can't remember. I need to take another look at the Aquaman piece. And all of them have food incorporated. Superman, however, has the most food incorporated. Half the statue actually is food. Where if you look at the Wolverine, here's a picture of that. There's some ice cream and some burgers. Deadpool just had the lollipop. And then Batman had the sausages he was wrangling around. Where if you look at Superman, the concept right here, he is flying over a bunch of pancakes. And not only are they pancakes, but they have fruit and nuts and frosting and what I assume is powdered sugar, which we'll look at closer in the paint and sculpt. He's flying above it. His fat ass is right there. He's taking another bite. And he is, I like his face. He looks like a fat kid who really wants to eat. and nothing's going to stop him from it. So I really like the expression. I like the fact they made him flying. So very, very cool concept. And where that actually rates on the extreme scale, if you don't know what that is, let me throw this up right here. Here's the extreme scale. Essentially, left is bad, right is good, and instead of 1 through 5, we have T through X. I would actually rate this right here as a W. Something pretty cool, a 4 out of 5. It's a completely different concept. It really shows he wants to eat. He's all about food. Shows his fatness. Like I said, I love the expression they put on his face. Very, very cool. And with that, I want to talk about the design as well. One of the big problems, Batman was their most recent piece, and it was the least popular piece because the base was arguably about 4 times the size of this, and we're going to see them close together on the end. So I like the fact that they scaled it back down. Just eyeballing it, he appears to be very similar in size to Batman. So I think they did a good job, as opposed to originally, you'll see at the end, Wolverine and Deadpool were completely different scales. So that's a good move too. And I think the fact that they made food a huge portion of it and they made him fly, I think that's a great design. And I give them a lot of props for that. So I think on the extreme scale for design, they also get a W, or a 4 out of 5. And next we're going to talk about the paint and sculpt. And as I said, these people are not in it for $1 million statues or $2,000-$3,000 statues, but they still do a very good job, which is why I think they're so popular. The Wolverine, their first piece out, still goes for 2 to 3 times what the retail was. Batman, you can't sell at retail, which is kind of interesting. So, and we all know that Marvel characters are a lot more popular than DC characters when it comes to statues, just specifically statues, because DC characters typically don't resell at the same. I learned that from a genius. Are you watching, Genius? But anyway, so starting at the paint, in sculpt, let's start at the bottom here. He has this black base, and they all have this simplistic black underbase here. And I hate these on statues. I don't like them. I think they're useless. I wish they could incorporate something else as part of the base, but with the fruit and stuff they have on the side, I think it makes sense. And let's look at that fruit. So it does look a little plasticky. I think the paint could have been done better. The sculpt is fine. It looks plastic, not resin or polystone. And one interesting thing here, I talked about powdered sugar earlier. Take a look at these grapes on the front. Purple, vibrant, bright. And it's going to be the same with the ones on his fork that you see right here. But then here's some in the back. Has this white shit all over it. And same with the grapes on top. And then here you see some of the other, I assume it's raspberries and blueberries. Again, it looks cool. It's a little plasticky looking with the paint and the sculpt, because real fruit has some texture, has some transparency to it. And then same with the nuts. Some of these nuts are opened. These nuts. The brown color looks okay. Some of it you can't even tell what it is. Then I'll look at the frosting really quick. I like how they did the frosting dripping down over the top with some flecks of whatever that black stuff is in there, and it's different lengths. Looks like it's melting on it. Doesn't look amazing, but looks okay. And I think the color they chose is perfect for the statue. And then some of it even falling on the base here, the sub base. And then you see some of the frosting in between the pancakes. I'm glad they didn't go with syrup. This makes it look much better. The pancakes look all right. I mean, they're obvious they're pancakes. They used a yellow and a brown to individualize them, and they're stacked at different levels. Some are wider than others. So up close, if you're examining this like a $1,000 statue, it doesn't look amazing, but it's cool looking. But let's move on to Superman, starting in his hand holding the blueberry. So this actually does not attach to the statue. And his hand looks good sculpt on it. I think the size is correct. And then moving on to his uniform, first it's textured. It's not over textured like Wolverine. And I like how they still gave some definition to his muscles, his biceps, his triceps, and yet he's fat. So they did a good job with that sculpt. And I think this traditional Superman blue color looks good. In between the folds, where you see the folds on the uniform, which is sculpted in, you see a darker blue, and that was just like their Wolverine. They shaded it the same, where there was a darker yellow. So very much reminds me of that. Then take a look at his chest here. The Superman symbol, very shiny, and I like that because it contrasts it more. And then his gut is huge. I absolutely love it. They added a little dark spot by his belly button. And then take a look at his lower half. Just like Deadpool, actually most of their pieces, tiny, tiny little ankles. Again, I like the fact that you can still see his knees, even though he's fat as hell. A little bit of definition in his legs. Then his traditional Superman underwear with the belt, golden belt, or golden belt buckle with the yellow belt. Some red straps and the red underwear, and I get a few folds in there. Then his tiny little feet look cool. Has that metallic rim on top of the shoes and on the bottom of the boots. Then the traditional red color. Then really quick, I want to take a look at the fork. The fork is awesome. It's an oversized fork, obviously. Very neat looking. His cape, I like the flow of it, I like the sculpt, and then they added this black shading, which again gives more contrast to the statue, so I think that was a great move. And if you haven't figured out, I'm liking the paint on Superman a lot better than I did on the base. And then take a look at his hair right here. Hair could have been done better. This is the first time they've done hair on one of their fat statues. It's very plasticky looking, almost like a helmet. Not enough strands in it. And the same thing, this is the first time they had to do eyebrows. His eyebrows are just kind of slapped on there, which, you know, they could have done purposefully for the comical style of it. He has these tiny little ears. I love how white his face is. The skin tone is pretty good, actually. There's a good mix in there of different skin tone colors. You can barely see his chin, and they started doing almost a 5 o'clock shadow. It's hard to tell in certain lights. His expression is perfect. His teeth they could have done better on. You can't differentiate the teeth, so there's not a lot of detail in there, which they did on some of their other statues, so I'm kind of interesting. Almost like they forgot. I like the color they used on his lips. Good sculpt on his nose. Then his eyes. They look great. I like the fact they added kind of the red veins on the outside. Solid blue color. I could see it neat if he had his heat vision. So let's go ahead and rate the paint of this piece on the extreme scale. Again, like I said, I think there's some misses. And remember, you got to keep in mind the price of the statue, even though that can't affect our score on the scale. But I think it's good. So if we put it right in the middle at very nice, I think Superman's suit and cape are better than the rest of it. And then with the sculpt, I think it's done very well, again, on Superman's body and his cape. And I think it's okay in the other areas. And then the portrait is a miss on the hair and the eyebrows and some of the other things. So again, I think it kind of falls in right in the middle in a V. So kind of 3 out of 5, very nice. And again, that's a good score. So overall for this piece, I like it. I think it may be my second favorite. It's kind of a tie between him and Deadpool. But I'm going to put it right at the middle. It's a very nice piece, which is a 3 right in the middle here. And again, I want to emphasize, this is a good piece. This is a good statue if you get a 3. It's not a bad thing. So here you go to see the scale. And with Batman, he's slightly smaller, but it's pretty negligible. He's much bigger than Deadpool, of course, and Wolverine is about twice the size of Deadpool. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with their future pieces. Since these are pretty similar, is Aquaman going to be the same? And if they do another Marvel piece, will it be more similar to the DC pieces? Or the Marvel pieces, or somewhere in between? So time will only tell on that. So let me know which one of these 4 you like the best. You know, Wolverine's one of my favorite characters, so I probably still stick with Wolverine. I'm seeing a nick on Wolverine's base right now. That's too bad. Oh well. Good thing it's not on the statue itself. But mine probably is Wolverine because he's my favorite character. But let me know in the comments what you think. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. We have awesome crap like this coming in all the time. I really appreciate you guys watching, and give me a like and let me know your thoughts on which one. I would appreciate it. Thanks so much. Take care.